So let's have a quick look at some of the alternate camera rigs that you could use in your scenes. It's not always important to use an actual rig, especially if the camera isn't doing very much, but I'll show you the advantages and disadvantages of some of the alternate setups. Here I am inside my scene, and one common thing that you might want to do is just parent or target this camera to look at a specific object. So I'm going to do that by adding in an empty object. So just choose plane axis, and then I can choose this one here, go over to the constraints, choose track 2, and then obviously just pick that empty that I've chosen there, and you'll notice that it's pointing in the wrong direction. So you'll need it to be in the negative Z to point towards that object, but it's gone red because our up can't be the same as our target angle, and for a camera the Y should be up. So now you can actually just grab this one object and move it around, and the camera is always going to point at that object. So that's it doesn't need to be an empty, it can be any object that you desire. Although if you do need to move the camera as well as the object, that's where you run into problems, because you'll have animation data on our empty object here, and you'll have animation data on this object, and they're two separate data blocks, and that will make it very difficult to edit and keep in sync. So if you need to move both of these objects, it's best to use a camera rig, so it's all contained into the one armature action. Now, another way might be to actually parent your camera to a path or a curve, and then have the camera follow along that path. So let's just quickly show you how to do that. I'm going to reset my cursor back to the middle, jump to the top view just because it's easier. I'm going to add in a curve. So I can choose any one of these curves, but for this example, I'm going to just choose path. And then when we jump into edit mode, you can see the arrows pointing in this direction, and that shows me the way that it wants to travel from this. It will be our start and this will be our end. If we want that to be opposite, we can just bring up the specials menu and then choose switch direction, and you'll see that those arrows are now pointed in the other way. Okay, so let's just give this a little bit of shape. It doesn't really matter, I'm just showing you how it works. If you choose a different type of curve, it will operate in whatever fashion that of the curve that you've chosen. So now it's time to parent our object to this curve. So let's just choose that one, and then shift select that, control P, and choose follow path. Now when we play our animation, you'll see that our camera moves along, although it's kind of offset. So let's reset that. We're going to hit Alt R to reset the rotation, then we hit Alt G to reset the location, but you'll notice it's jumped to the origin of our curve and not the start. So let's actually clear the inverse parent. So let's hit Alt P to clear our parent, but we only want to clear the parent inverse. You'll notice that now it has snapped to the start of our curve. Now when we play our animation, the camera will follow along, although we don't have a lot of control. So you can rotate it if you want, but it makes it very difficult to animate. Plus we can't easily control the speed or the direction of where it's going. To control the actual speed, we have to go over here and say, oh, okay, how long do we want it to go? Do we want this whole movement to be 100 frames, or do we want it to be 200 frames? What do we want it to be? Or if we want to manually manipulate it, we can actually just jump over into the graph editor here for our path, and then clear our modifier, which is what's automatically created. I'm just going to clear that, and then we're going to key our let's just add some keyframes. So on our evaluation time, I'm on frame 1, then hit I, add it there, and let's just, for the sake of demonstration, let's go to frame 200 or 201, and let's just type 201 here and hit insert. Now you'll see that it's going to slow, it has a nice slow start, and then it's going to speed up in the middle and then slow down at the end. So that's how we can get it to work like that. If we wanted to add extra keyframes and make it go backwards, we can do this. Let me just scrub and show you how it goes backwards. Woo! But then it just becomes really difficult to handle. And if we go behind negative, it's just going to go back to the start and sit there. So yeah, this becomes a very cumbersome way of working. Of course, you wouldn't do something as crazy as this, but I find it very difficult to manipulate this evaluation curve. So it's much easier just to use a camera rig in that situation. But if your camera is just going straight ahead along the curve, any type of curve, then this would be an excellent option.